Hey, this is Dave from Transcend, and I'm here today at the beautiful Olympic Training Center in Thailand. This is called Thanyapura, and it's literally an athletic oasis in the middle of the jungle. But I'm here to talk about something that's not so beautiful. In fact, it's something that I call the ugly three. Now, here's a list of three foods that stress you out, literally stress you out, not just your mind, but they chemically stress out your body. It's physiological, it creates a response in your body that is literally stressful. It triggers your cortisol response, it triggers your inflammation, and here's the worst part, it's something that we've all grown up with. Now, I know that we were all wondering what we can do in our diets to change and to make a transformation or just tweak things to make it healthier. And here's the bottom line: if you're adding superfoods to your diet, or if you're embarking on a new program that involves something completely different than what you're used to, my first question to you is: have you first addressed the ugly three? What is the ugly three? Very simple: sugar, dairy, and refined grains. These three food groups that we grew up with. I know most of us were born and raised on it. In this modern day society, these three food groups, unfortunately, make up the bulk of our diets. And they're convenient, they're easy, they trigger our pleasure receptors in our brain. But the bottom line is these foods are making us sick. These foods are stressing us out. Now, everybody responds to stress in a different way, just like everybody's body will respond to these food groups in a different way. And some people, they can kind of get away with it forever and really not feel like, for example, bread, well, it doesn't affect some people. So some people will consider that, well, do I really have to cut that out? Same thing with milk. And of course, sugar, I think that's one of those things we all know is just not great for our bodies. But here's the thing. Once you know that these foods can actually stress you out on a chemical level, it will make you look at these foods differently. And that's what I'm here to encourage you, is to look at your next meal differently. So the first thing is, in any transformation or in any upgrade or healthy habits that we're trying to incorporate into our lives, one of the first things we should ask ourselves: what do we do, or what do I do the most frequently? Ask yourself that. What do I do the most frequently? So, for example, if every day you look back at your week and you have the same snack every day, ask yourself, is this snack the best thing that I can be doing? And of course, ask yourself, or look at this particular snack, and does it have dairy in it? Does it have sugar in it? Does it have refined grains in it? If yes to any or all of these, then you need to reconsider changing that snack. It's very simple. And the same thing goes for breakfast and, of course, lunch and dinner. Just ask yourself this question: and think back and do a little diet audit and really look and reflect, how frequently do these foods show up in my diet? And you'll see very quickly how these three foods can contribute to stress and inflammation, and of course weight gain, metabolic disorders, and all kinds of digestive disorders as well. So although everybody responds differently, and some people can drink milk and live a long, healthy life, and some people can eat bread and live a long, happy life, and that's great for them. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's the thing: if you are struggling with a health challenge, if you have digestive issues, if you have any skin irritations or allergies, if you have stubborn weight that just won't go and you know your metabolism is not as efficient as possible, or if you just straight up have too much stress in your life, then you need to take this very seriously with these foods that stress you out, because it's not just about the calories, it's not just about proteins or fats or even minerals and vitamins. It's about the chemical reaction, the inflammatory effect that these foods have on your body. So I'm going to explain more in detail each of these ugly three and why they're so ugly. And the bottom line is because it's the food that we eat now has changed. It's just the industry of the modernized food is just not the food that our parents and our grandparents grew up with. We're living in a fast-paced society, and science has advanced the food industry. And now, you might have heard it before, but Frankenfoods, of course, coming out of the GMO, genetically modified organisms, it's a scary movement that is very real in our daily life, and we have to understand what this is doing to us on a cellular level. So we're going to go into the ugly three: the sugar, the dairy, and the refined grains. And I'm going to teach you how these foods have changed since we grew up and why it will benefit you to take these foods out of your diet. So stay tuned. More is coming on the ugly three and how you can use this information to live a happier, healthier life. I think we can all agree that sugar is not a beneficial nutrient, but a lot of people just don't realize how detrimental to their health it really is. Now, some people tolerate carbohydrates very well. Everybody has a different body type. Of course, there's ectomorphs. Think about most champion endurance athletes. They're built in a similar way, kind of spidery, long limbs. Well, they're designed for distance. They do very well with carbohydrates. On the other end of the scale, you have a different body type, and they don't deal with carbohydrates so well. It simply means that different body types are born with a different reaction with their insulin and a different capability to transport and utilize carbohydrates as energy. So I don't know what body type you are, but if you feel like carbohydrates are something that actually slow you down, or just don't benefit your body, if you find weight gain comes very quickly when you eat too many carbohydrates, this is something that you really need to understand. But regardless, even if you're the marathon type, sugar specifically just does not provide your body with the benefits that that anybody needs, let's be honest. So even Gatorade, a sugary drink designed for athletes, there are better options. You do not need to drink pure sugar water. There are ways to take in electrolytes and energy without taking in that amount of sugar that's always going to cause a stress reaction in your body. So sugar, if you broke it down and really looked at what sugar does in our body, you can see it starts this cycle of stress. It literally triggers your cortisol, which is our stress hormone, to start to help to regulate the amount of sugar that's in our bloodstream. And once this happens, then essentially we have just chemically signaled the exact same response as stress. So now we're in a stressful situation. Not only that, but our inflammation rises, and now our liver is trying to process this glucose, and our leptin hormone is essentially now deciding where to put this excess glucose, this immediate energy, and now our body's basically shut down. Or even you might not feel shut down, it's not optimized, let's put it that way. Your system is now struggling, it's sluggish. It's going to have a whole reaction of processes that it has to undergo in order to clear this sugar and rebalance what that sugar did to your system. So you're always going to be in this roller coaster of sugar and then finding your balance. Thank goodness our bodies are incredible organisms. We will find our balance. But you know what? When people get sick, a lot of times it's because their body said, no, I can't do this anymore. No more balance for you. You've stressed me out too much. I need a vacation. And that's when we get sick. So for diabetics, of course, when they've had too much inflammation over their life, too much sugar, too much stress, too much of a cortisol and an adrenal reaction, then diabetes can develop. Their insulin says, no more. I'm going on vacation. I cannot take this. You have stressed me out too much. I'm going home. So I hope this is not the stage that anybody here listening to this is in, but if you are, if you're pre-diabetic, if you're diabetic, there are still things that you can do to optimize your energy. Let's talk about another subject, dairy. Now, dairy is a broad subject, okay? Now, I don't like to demonize any one food group, but when people come to me and they want to make a healthy change in their life, one of the first things that I explain to them is, or I check in their diet, and I say, what is your situation with dairy? How frequently does dairy make its way into your diet? Now, here's the thing. Not all dairy is created equal. Example, if your dairy product, if your milk, if your yogurt came from a cow that was roaming through the fields in Switzerland and eating herbs and sprouts and grass all year round, getting the natural vitamin D from the sunlight, and no one's touching him or her with progesterone and growth hormone and steroids and antibiotics, this is a healthy cow. This will give you a healthy product. However, most of our dairy products these days are not from mountain grazing Swiss cows. Let's be honest, all right? Most of the cows these days are stuck in a little box. It's horrific. They never get to see the natural sunlight. And guess what they're eating all day? GMO corn and soy grains, which is just estrogenic by nature and very, very inflammatory. This will cause an inflammatory reaction in their body, which guess where that ends up? That ends up in your body. So I've been dairy-free for over 16 years now. However, relevant, I eat goat and sheep milk dairy. The reason why I say when I say I mean myself and hundreds and thousands of clients over the past years have switched or completely changed if they haven't eliminated dairy. This is where I was explaining how not all dairy is created equal. You need to look at your plate or your glass or your product and follow it back. Follow it back to where it started. If your cow/dairy product started in a little box being fed corn and soy and pumped full of antibiotics and hormones, This is not a healthy product. This will cause you health issues. This will stress you out. It will stress out your system in a variety of ways. Number one will be inflammation, toxicity, horrible for the microorganisms. Non-organic dairy and non-grass-fed dairy is very, very detrimental to our microorganism balance. Now, if you're suffering from upper respiratory issues, asthma, or any skin issues, then dairy is one of the first things that you want to cut out. It's one of the most profound impacts that you can make on your health in these regards when you eliminate dairy. Food allergies, skin irritations, asthma, a lot of upper respiratory issues can be completely eliminated when you eliminate non-organic dairy. Now, here's the interesting part. Organic, or let's say grass-fed, green-fed, a cow that has been eating grass as nature intended all year round, out in the mountains or in the fields or in the pasture. Now, this dairy product that this cow brings to you, if it is raw and not pasteurized. Now, you see, when you pasteurize dairy, which 90% of the dairy products that you buy out there are pasteurized, this essentially means they've been heated to a certain degree where all of the beneficial micronutrients and microorganisms, the bacteria, are now dead. So they have killed all of the bacteria in order to sterilize your product. But the thing is, we don't want to take in sterilized products. We want to take in a product that's going to feed our good bacteria and contribute to a healthier gut environment. So that being said, you really, when it comes to dairy, eliminating dairy for most people is one of the biggest steps you can take forward in better health, in better digestive health especially. However, if you are just stuck on dairy, I know I enjoy my raw goat cheese every now and then. It's a treat for me. I really do enjoy it. And I know it does my body good because it's completely raw. And goat and sheep, by the way, typically don't eat corn and soy. They're grazing on real grass, as they should, or hay, alfalfa perhaps. And they are not been given steroids and antibiotics, and basically they're living a more natural life, which will give you a more natural product. So my tip to you on dairy, tip number one, switch from cow to goat or sheep, and right there you're already going to have a benefit. Take that to the next step, and now make all of your dairy products raw. Boom, right there, raw dairy products, completely different story. Just absolutely not comparable to the pasteurized cow milk that we're drinking today. Now it's time to talk about refined grains. Now this is a big topic. Refined grains are, I mean, if you Google, are refined grains good for me, question mark, you're going to find a lot of contradictory information, all right? A lot of conflict, a lot of contrast. It's just a broad topic that people just kind of hack to death and misinterpret, to be honest. Now, here's the thing. Our ancestors, well, not going back that far, but let's say first generation. So our parents and our parents' parents, they were born, they were raised on grains, as were we. Here's the thing. They had different grains back then. It wasn't the same food that we're eating now. Because of GM crops, genetically modified, because of processing and the way that we are basically putting refined grains into everything if it's packaged. Now, our system has come to a tipping point where essentially there's so much inflammation. You've had too much dairy, too much sugar. Now we pile the refined grains on it. There's phytic acid. There's all kinds of anti-nutrients in these refined grains that we're taking into our body and just creating over a lifetime an imbalance in our system. So an imbalance in our acidity, imbalance in our digestive enzymes, and it's just wreaking havoc on our system. Now, some people absolutely cannot have refined grains. Like, it's dangerous. It could be life-threatening, literally, for people who have an intolerance to either gluten or any other one of the proteins or any inflammatory or autoimmune disorder. Then mostly these people will react very seriously to grains. So it's a no-brainer there. You cut it out. You just don't do it. Easy. But how, if it doesn't affect us visibly after like a bite of bread, if we don't blow up, then how can we consider refined grains to be so bad? So many people are just demonizing it. Now, I can't say that refined grains are going to be super detrimental to your health. Or you need a bigger picture. I don't know you. I don't know how often you have grains. If you have a little piece of bread on the weekend, that's not going to kill you. I'm sure we have bigger issues to tackle when it comes to looking for optimal health. However, if refined grains make it into your diet every single day, and if you look back on your life and refined grains, bread, chips, all that stuff, made it into your diet every day, probably more than once a day, then it's safe to assume your body has had enough, it's had too much, and it's not benefiting your body. So first question to ask is, how frequently do I eat refined grains? If the answer is every day and you're looking for a solution for better health, tip to you, change that. Stop grains, stop refined grains, or dramatically reduce them. And right there, you're going to see the benefits. Now, grains, if you don't know, are basically, they contain an anti-nutrient, they contain phytic acid. Most grains, if not organic, are pesticides and chemicals and GM. So it's essentially just a soup of chemicals that you're taking in. And grains are very good at absorbing things. And so they absorb these chemicals more. They could be containing mold. There's a whole host of issues that you'll hear. Now, you'll hear some people talking about soaking the grains first, but very few people do that. I've been doing this for a very long time. And when I ask someone, do you soak your grains or soak your nuts? Usually the answer is no, I don't have time for that. And most of us, if we don't even have time to buy fresh food, then who is going to soak their seeds and nuts? So not that it's a bad thing, it's just not practical. So one of the most simplest things we can do when it comes to grains is just do a quick diet audit, look back, how much do we eat, how frequently, and how much of a change do I want to make in my life? And if the answer is, I want to transform, simple. Cut out the grains. If the answer is, I just want to live a little better and I still want to enjoy what I do, well then no problem. Just look at how frequently you do it now and just reduce it a little bit. Make it better. Find a balance. Since grains find their way into almost everything that's processed and packaged, it's just best to stay away from these foods. That's the bottom line. But if you look at your diet and you have a grain in there, let's say oats or something like that. Now, oats can be absolutely healthy. They're naturally gluten-free. They do have other proteins in them that can cause slight gastrointestinal stress or bloating, but very few people, in my experience, have adverse reaction to oats. So I'm a big fan of oats myself, but when I do them, I do oat fiber. So I usually talk about when you do something repetitively, make sure that that thing is as good as it can be, because that's just your habits make up your life, of course. So if you're addicted to oatmeal, first thing, if you're addicted to oatmeal and you're struggling with weight loss, well, right there we have to look at your portion size. Maybe you're eating too much and it's just more carbs than your body can handle, and so it's going to save some energy for later, aka body fat. So if oatmeal is your thing, I'm not going to take that away from you. I don't take that away from many of my clients unless we go in ketosis or super candida detox, but I change the oats and I say, look, let's try oat bran, also known as oat fiber. Now, oat fiber is more nutrient dense, more fiber, clearly, more magnesium, more manganese, more vitamins, more nutrients, and it just is more, it's more satisfying. It's just more filling and just gives you a feeling like you just had a more substantial meal. So little oatmeal tip is, if you're an oatmeal addict, if you start your day with oatmeal and that's working for you, you can optimize that by just switching to oat bran. Try it out. It's really good stuff. And you can also get creative with the recipes. Getting over oatmeal, going back to the refined grains topic, again, it's a big one and I can go on for a long time, but we can basically break it down like this. If you have any digestive issues and you're serious about making a healthy change, just stop the grains. It will benefit you in ways you could never imagine until you actually experience it. When you cut it out of your diet completely, when you basically tell yourself, I'm celiac, or I have a gluten intolerance, I'm allergic, I can't do it. When you tell yourself that definitively, and grains just are out of your diet because they're not an option, watch what happens. It's always an amazing thing. You'll see you're going to have a faster metabolism, better digestion, skin conditions can improve, and even mood and mental focus can improve. You just never know how the refined grains are negatively affecting you. You just don't know until you eliminate. This is crucial with anything, is we're creatures of habit. And we get stuck in patterns and we find our comfort zone when it comes to food. We have our quick meals or our go-to snack. And a lot of times our go-to snack is not broccoli, let's be honest. Our go-to snack is not freshly cut carrots, because that's just not the way we were wired, all right? And so carbs, refined grains, have become the source of that comfort meal, that healthy snack that's just easy to go for. And that has caused adverse reaction or adverse effect in our body. So there it is, the ugly three, the three foods that stress you out and just don't benefit your body. Again, that's sugar, non-organic dairy, and refined grains. So whether it's optimizing digestion, boosting your metabolism, or just having more energy and feeling better, removing or dramatically reducing these three foods in your diet will make amazing progress. You can't imagine until you actually eliminate it. So there's our challenge to you. Feel free to email us at info@transcendhealth.com. We're happy to help where we can. All right, so thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you soon.